Ben McKee and Patrick Brown with Go Vols 24/7 here on campus on a Saturday morning where Tennessee just had practice number 3. We spoke to William Inge, we spoke to a couple of linebackers, a couple of defensive linemen. Very busy morning as Tennessee gets back to work. They had an off day yesterday, and maybe routes on air was a little rusty because of the off day yesterday. That's obviously is not the case, but unfortunately it was a bit sloppy from the 3 to 5 minutes we got to see today.
Yeah, some drops, some throws that weren't entirely accurate, just not a very sharp period, and it didn't seem like Josh Heupel was very pleased. Some wide receivers doing push-ups when they have drops, and so there were some good throws though. I thought Jake Merklinger had some good throws. Excuse me. Towards the end of that period when I was over there. But we only got to see one period, but still plenty of observations up on the site. Go check them out.
Yeah, absolutely. And with William Inge, we've said this about a couple of position coaches. I think I said it about Alec Ablin, but I think you can tell with William Inge, he really likes his room. And there's a lot of reasons to be excited about that linebacker room.
Yeah, it's a lot of four-star, highly recruited guys. You know, you've got an interesting kind of gap there because you got 2 starters in Arion Carter and Jeremiah Thielander who played a lot of football. They were starters last year, played some as freshmen. They're juniors now, and they're the old guys, but everybody else is freshmen. You got a couple of second-year guys in Edwin Spillman and Jordan Burns. And then you have some true freshmen, Brendan Ains, and then the 2 Jadens that weren't out there in the spring because they were coming off shoulder surgery. Inge said he likes the group. He said he's been pretty pleased with what he's seen from the 2 guys coming off the shoulder surgeries, Harmon and Perlotti. I said Perlotti's a 150 miles an hour kind of guy, and Harmon's a little bit more of a quieter but quiet confidence sort of, but still finds his way around the football. Is just a little bit quiet, maybe a little bit more streamlined in some of those movements, but likes what those guys have done. He had several comparisons for Edwin Spillman, which we'll get to, but yeah, that's physically a group that stands out on that field, and this is a program that's obviously been established. A lot of players have made gains, and that group is among the best looking ones out there.
Yeah, and part of that is because apparently Edwin Spillman is the Incredible Hulk.
Or he's yeast.
Or William Inge did say that Edwin Spillman was yeast that you put in bread, and because it rises to the top I believe.
Continues to rise, yeah.
Yes, but very clear and obvious. Arion Carter and Jeremiah Thielander getting a lot of the talk, and rightfully so. It seems like they're poised for big seasons. I think people are forgetting to maybe put Edwin Spillman in that same breath in terms of linebackers who are poised for a big season.
Yeah, he's going to be a big part of the plans, and I think it said a lot about him that he played in only, 3 games last season. He had a wrist injury that sidelined him for most of the year, but he was playing rotational snaps against Ohio State, having played very little. I mean, you're throwing a true freshman that's doesn't have a ton of experience. He was out there. I think he had the green dot helmet too, so
yep.
They have a lot of faith in him. That's been the case. And just said multiple things along the lines of Incredible Hulk. He can run through a wall. He's going to be someone you know about, all kinds of stuff. So, and Edwin, I asked him if he's kind of ready to prove it, and he said, "Yeah, I'm done talking about last year. I've worked really hard with my guys and to try to be a better player, and he's ready to go out there and prove it." So he's sort of in that group. There's a group on this team that's got some younger guys that have played or maybe haven't played very much that are going to be stepping into bigger roles, and those guys are hungry to prove themselves. And I think that's why there's especially on defense, there's some guys that are they're going to be maybe not know a whole lot about right now, but they should play a lot and should make an impact for this team.
There's a lot of competition ongoing at defensive line as well because there are a ton of bodies, and Rodney Garner likes to play a ton of defensive linemen to keep his big guys fresh. And today we spoke to Tyree Weathersby, who really turned heads his first week or so of practice when he showed up as a true freshman, but then had a really nasty hip injury that required surgery and was a pretty lengthy recovery, and kind of had a year to settle back in last year when he returned. This is his 3rd year in the program, and he's ready to try and make some noise. And then Josh Shell, the interior defensive lineman from Grand Valley State, also spoke to him, and seems like he's really starting to fit in well with this room as well.
Yeah, that defensive tackle rotation I think is still going to be kind of TBD over the next few weeks behind Jackson Moy, Bryson Eason, and David Hobbs. Shell is going to be in there. There's a couple of freshmen that could be getting the mix there. Some guys that are returning players that have a chance, and they just kind of see who emerges, who separates. Weathersby, a guy I think will be in the rotation. As you kind of touched on, he had the injury, had sort of a year to sort of get back to himself, and
He
felt
looks,
like
he looks really good.
yeah, he's felt like himself, I think, this whole offseason. So I think he's going to be a guy that's going to plug into that defensive end spot. And there could be a handful of snaps there. I know Jason Jenkins played quite a bit. He transferred. They've still got Dominic Bailey, who could play inside and outside. They still got Tyree West. But I think Weathersby is, of the guys that are stepping into that rotation, he's probably one you feel most sure about is actually going to be in the rotation. So he's a guy that they've liked for a while. And again, he's in that group of players that hasn't played a whole lot, but this is sort of their time, and I think they're ready to seize it.
Yep, a bit of a lighter day for us tomorrow. We'll have a practice availability that we're able to watch. Tennessee will be back on the practice field tomorrow morning at the same time. We'll be able to watch at least a little bit of that, but no interviews tomorrow, and then an off day for Tennessee on Monday. So in the meantime, make sure you check out GoVols 24/7 for all of our first week of camp coverage. Plenty of observations, photos, videos, stories, recruiting coverage, because it's been a big recruiting week for Tennessee as well, and we've got some podcasts for you to check out in the meantime. For Patrick Brown, I'm Ben McKee.